Hello everyone and welcome on the Papier de Rêve channel. I'm Ursula and today I will be painting with you an hellebore as known as Christmas rose. If you want to have a peek at my reference picture for this painting, you can head up to my blog. The link is in the description just below. I post all time the reference picture and some other shoot of the painting so that you can see more details into it. But as you can see in my reference image, my Christmas roses are pink. So I started this painting by placing this touch of pink on my paper in order to know where the flower will be in the painting, and then I'm adding some colors around them. I'm working with quite a fair amount of water on my paper in the first layer because I want all the colors to be very soft and I want them to blend together quite well. There is only one area where I do not want color bleeding and I want some hard edges in. It's under the first petal of the Christmas rose. In my picture you can see that the petals inside are a little bit lighter and I want to see that in my painting. So I'm being very careful to not paint this area. And I will let also a part of my painting white in the bottom right corner, just because if there is a part that is white in my painting, I want another part to be white so that there is some like an echo between those two parts, and it will be easier for your eyes to turn around in this painting. In this painting, I want to have a darker background and also a cold background, just because this flower lives in winter and I want for you to see that winter feel into it, and I'm using colors in order to get this feel of winter. I'm using a mix of Indanthrene blue and nickel azure yellow for the green, but I will put a little bit more Indanthrene blue so that the green is really cooler than I'm used to. And in order to reinforce this feeling of winter, I will work the bottom of my painting with some burnt sienna into it so that you can have the feel of dead leaves on the ground and dead vegetation on the ground. I'm working this first layer with a large flat brush because I like the way I can make marks on my paper with this brush. I can be quite bold with it and I love that the marks are not going away a lot. They are blending a little bit, but they are still visible, and that's what I like in this first layer. So once this first layer is totally dry, I can work a little bit some contrast in this painting, and I will add some details step by step. I will take my time in this painting. So I'm starting by adding some leaves on top of the flowers because each flower is coming with leaves, and I want for you to see them, and it's easier for me if I'm painting them right now because I know where they are and I will be able to paint around them with some darker color later. And as you can see, my first layer has dried quite lighter, and I want to get some darker color back into the painting. So I'm starting to applying a green that is quite dense in pigment, and I try to not add too much water into it so that I can get a darker green. And I will paint around the stem of the flower in a negative painting techniques so that they starting to appear from the background. And I'm being quite careful in the choice of colors. In between the flowers and the ground, I want some warmer tones of greens, but at the top I really want cooler tones of greens. So I'm adding a lot more Indanthrene blue in the mix and it's making a really beautiful turquoise mixed with nickel azo yellow, and I quite love this color. It's working really well with the other color present in the painting, and it is making some magical marks in the background. The challenge in this painting was to get this feeling of winter in the painting. I'm painting with pink, with greens, with some yellow that are quite bright. That's colors that I'm using a lot more during the spring. So I have to be very careful in my mix, and I keep adding some blues into the green so that it has this feeling of coldness into it. I'm really not sure if I have achieved this challenge, and you will be the judge for that. And don't hesitate to tell me in the comments that if you feel the winter and the cold in this painting. So before finishing the second layer, I'm adding a little bit more darkness into the background, just because I want this dead feel into it, dead leaves and earth into it. So I'm adding a mix of burnt sienna and Indanthrene blue in order to have some of a neutral color into it. And this color is blending really fast with the green on top of it. So I'm adding a little bit more green into the section where the two colors meet, so that the gradient is a little bit softer, and there is a little bit more delicacy in this area. And once I'm happy with this mix, I will let this layer dry totally before adding another layer of details. And while it's drying, I will talk you through my supplies for today. For the brushes, I'm using an Escoda Último 1 inch and an Escoda Último number 18. And at the end, a Rosemary & Co Series 39 1/2 inch in a dagger shape. For the colors, I'm using Indanthrene blue, nickel azo yellow, Wisteria, rose madder lake, and burnt sienna. And my paper for today is Canson héritage in hot pressed. Once my second layer has totally dry, it's time to add a little bit more details in order for you to understand the painting correctly. And I want also to add a little bit more depth to it and contrast in order to make this painting a little bit more interesting. So first I will add some richness into the foliage area between the stems of all the Christmas roses. And for that I'm using a special brush for painting this area. I'm using a dagger brush with a really long hair and cut in a triangular shape. And this brush is really best for painting foliage, just because the long hair are a little bit more difficult to control, and it will make some random marks on the paper, and that way the marks will appear a little bit more natural, and it will give the effect of foliage or stems or whatever you want to paint. So I'm using it to paint some texture in this foliage area, and I will use it also to darken even more the background with another layer of Indanthrene blue in order to make the flower pop a little bit more against this dark background. And even if the area of the foliage is wet, I can still get some marks on my paper, and it will create some texture and make you think about foliage, leaves, stems in this area. And I do not forget also to add a little bit more texture also in the earthy area with the same brush, but with burnt sienna as the color. it looks like I'm just scribbling away with my brush, but all these tiny marks on my paper will create the profusion of texture, of vegetation, of some things going on in the area where I put it. And before ending this painting, I will add a little bit more texture also in the flower. I'm adding a little bit more rose madder lake in order to get more depth into the flower. And I'm making the background bleed a little bit in the white area so that they appear a little bit less white and a little bit more unified with all the painting. And I like to add a little bit of Wisteria at the end in the flower. It's an opaque color so that it will appear a little bit weird maybe on the watercolor, but I like it because it adds a little bit of texture in the flower and make it appear a bit more natural. And this video is now ending. Thanks for watching and I hope you like it. Please check the blog post for more information about this painting and tell me what you think in the comments. See you soon.